All right, let's dive into the world of Waymo.
Waymo.
Yeah, aiming to be the world's most trusted driver.
Right.
And we've got some really interesting information from this article. I scooped Tarnch.
Okay.
Really fascinating stuff. They already have driverless taxis out there, millions of miles logged, even a partnership with Uber.
It's amazing how they've gone from, being just a research project to actually having a commercial service running.
Yeah.
A lot of companies are still in that experimental phase.
Yeah, for sure. So it's been a while, like this has been in the works for a while, right? This isn't an overnight success story.
Right. Back in 2009, it all started as the Google self-driving car project,
Okay.
sometimes known as Project Chauffeur.
Yeah, yeah.
And that connection to Google's innovative culture, I think, is really important.
Oh, for sure.
It makes sense that they'd be pushing those boundaries.
Yeah, right from the start. So, and they hit a big milestone pretty early on too, didn't they?
Absolutely. In 2015, they actually did the world's first fully driverless ride on public roads.
Wow.
No safety driver, no special conditions, just a car navigating the world on its own.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that was huge for the industry. It showed that autonomous driving was more than just a sci-fi dream.
For sure.
It could actually be a reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when did it officially become Waymo, like the company we know today? When was that?
That happened in 2016 when Alphabet spun it off.
Okay.
And it was kind of like a graduation ceremony.
Yeah.
They were serious about getting this tech out there onto the streets, not just the test track anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then they didn't waste any time. They launched their ride-hailing service pretty soon after, right?
Yeah, they did. So in 2018, Waymo 1 hit the road in Phoenix, Arizona.
Smart place to start.
Yeah, it's very strategic.
Yeah.
Wide roads, predictable weather, pretty friendly layout for self-driving cars.
Yeah.
So they could kind of build up that trust, and refine things in a controlled environment.
Makes sense. Phoenix would be a good testing ground for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But they've moved beyond that now, haven't they?
They have.
Well, they've expanded to
Oh,
tougher
got you.
areas.
Yeah, they've gone to San Francisco, Los Angeles, proving they can handle those tougher, more complex environments.
Yeah.
And it's not stopping there. They're looking at Austin, Atlanta, maybe even more places after that.
Wow.
What's cool is that they're really committed to adapting. Each city has different challenges.
Oh, for sure.
And mastering those shows, they're ready for anything, right? They're not just a one-trick pony.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got this really ambitious company pushing the boundaries of this whole industry. But what's the secret sauce? Like, what makes these cars self-driving? I've heard about the Waymo driver, but what is it exactly?
So the Waymo driver is like the brains of the operation.
Okay.
It's this mix of hardware and software, really sophisticated,
Yeah.
that allows the vehicles to perceive and understand their surroundings.
Like a human.
Yeah, much like a human driver, but with like superhuman senses.
Okay, so how does it actually work? Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, their sensor suite is what makes it so impressive.
Okay.
First, you have LiDAR that uses lasers to create this super detailed 3D map
Okay.
of the car's surroundings. It can spot objects up to 300 meters away,
Oh.
which is like incredible foresight, you know?
That's like 3 football fields almost.
Yeah, almost.
I can definitely see how that would be super helpful for safety. But what else is part of this sensor package?
Well, they also use radar to track how other vehicles are moving.
Okay.
And then high-resolution cameras, those are important.
Yeah.
They interpret road signs, lane markings, traffic lights.
So you're giving the car superhuman vision, basically.
Exactly. It can
Yeah.
see even in the dark or in bad weather.
Amazing. And I bet all this isn't cheap, right?
You're right. The cost has been a major hurdle for a long time. But actually, sensor technology has gotten more affordable
Oh, wow.
over the years.
Yeah.
And Waymo has been a big part of that. Yeah, and there's even talk in the industry about maybe eventually phasing out expensive things like LiDAR altogether.
Really?
Yeah,
No LiDAR.
it's a hot topic right now.
Interesting.
Some experts, like Anthony Lewandowski, he believes that advancements in AI and cameras alone might be enough.
Interesting.
Others say that LiDAR's precision is still essential. We'll have to see how that debate plays out.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's anyone's guess right now.
So, okay, we've got this technology, very impressive, but it's only as good as its real-world performance, right?
Right.
So how does Waymo actually test and refine this system?
So their testing approach is incredibly rigorous.
Okay.
These started in controlled environments, like closed tracks to get the basics right.
Makes sense.
But then they gradually moved to those more challenging public roads.
Yeah.
They've racked up millions of miles in cities like Phoenix, San Francisco, and Los Angeles.
Okay.
They're really dedicated to proving this tech can handle the unexpected, the unpredictable things that make driving so tricky.
Of course, yeah. So lots of real-world experience, but they're also constantly pushing their limits. And they're planning to expand their testing even further, right?
Exactly. They're looking to add 10 new cities to their roster in 2025.
Wow.
Starting with Las Vegas and San Diego. It's all about gathering data in lots of different places, busy city streets, desert highways, making sure the technology is road ready for anything.
Smart.
Yeah.
So this is all well and good, but I think the question everyone's thinking is, how safe is it?
Right.
People are understandably nervous about, getting into a car without a human driver.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But safety is absolutely paramount.
Yeah.
And Waymo is really focused on that. They've worked hard to build a safety record that's actually better than human drivers.
Okay.
And the data is really impressive.
So what kind of numbers are we talking about here?
Well, independent studies by Swiss Re, they're a big reinsurance company. They've shown that Waymo's cars have way fewer liability claims compared to human drivers.
Okay.
Like a significant reduction.
And by way fewer, we're talking about what?
Get this, an 88% reduction in property damage claims.
Wow.
And a 92% reduction in bodily injury claims.
That's incredible.
So you're statistically safer in a Waymo than with a human.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing, right?
Wow. That says a lot about their commitment to safety.
Absolutely. Their testing, their sensor technology, their AI algorithms, it all adds up.
For sure.
They're learning and adapting all the time, just like human driver would, but at a much bigger scale and much faster.
But haven't there been reports of Waymo cars making mistakes, like getting into little fender benders or even like driving in circles?
Yeah, there have been a few incidents.
Okay.
Any new tech is going to have hiccups, especially one as complex as this.
Right, of course.
What matters is how they address it. And Waymo has been really transparent. They investigate, they find the root cause, and then they implement software updates. Okay.
To try to prevent it happening again?
Yeah.
It's that constant learning and improvement
Right.
that makes me confident in their approach.
Okay, so they're working to improve. But are people actually ready to get into these cars? Like, is anyone actually using this service?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
But the answer is increasingly yes. Waymo One, their robotaxi service, has been running without safety drivers in certain areas for a while now.
Okay.
They started in Phoenix,
Right.
expanded to San Francisco, Los Angeles, and now they're doing over 100,000 paid rides every week.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's a sign that people are starting to trust this technology.
100,000 rides a week. I'm impressed.
Hmm.
But it can't be cheap to run all this tests.
Right.
Building and maintaining these robotaxis has got to be a huge investment.
Yeah, you're right. It's a capital-intensive business.
Yeah.
But Waymo has a lot of financial backing.
Okay.
They recently closed a $5.6 billion funding round,
Oh.
led by Alphabet,
Okay.
with investors like Andreessen Horowitz and T. Rowe Price. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that kind of investment shows there's a lot of confidence in their long-term potential.
That's a lot of faith in their vision, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's be honest, though. Is the robotaxi service actually profitable yet? Are they making money?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
But the investors see that potential for a big payoff in the future.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the early days of the internet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Took a while for those companies to become profitable.
Of course.
But now look at the impact they have.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
So Waymo's playing the long game,
Right.
betting on the future. But they're not just relying on robotaxis, are they? I've heard they're doing other things too.
You're right. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Okay.
They've got some really interesting strategic partnerships
Oh, interesting.
that are positioning them well for the future.
I'm curious, what kind of partnerships are we talking about?
Well, one key area is vehicle manufacturing.
Okay.
They've teamed up with companies like Jaguar Land Rover and Fiat Chrysler
Okay.
to retrofit their existing vehicles with self-driving tech.
So they're not trying to build everything from scratch.
Exactly. They're using the expertise and manufacturing power of those automotive giants.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, it lets them focus on what they're good at, the Waymo driver,
Right.
and then leverage all that existing infrastructure
Super
and
leverage.
expertise.
So smart move. But are there any other partnerships in the works?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
They've partnered with ride-hailing giants like Uber.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a win-win. Waymo gets to use Uber's platform and their huge customer base.
Yeah, that's huge.
And Uber can offer its users the option of a driverless ride.
So they're thinking big picture, playing the field, getting themselves in a good position.
Yeah.
I can see why people are excited about Waymo,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing it's not all smooth sailing. What are some of the challenges they're facing?
You're right. They've got some pretty stiff competition.
Who would talk about?
Companies like Tesla, Cruise, Amazon's Zoox,
Yeah.
they're all trying to grab a piece of that autonomous vehicle pie.
So speaking of Tesla, they've been making a lot of headlines.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how does Waymo's approach compare to theirs?
Good question. Tesla's approach is quite different.
Okay.
They're putting a lot of emphasis on a camera-centric system.
Okay.
They use all that data they get from their existing fleet to train their AI.
Right.
It's very data-driven.
All right.
Waymo is more of a multi-sensor approach. They're really prioritizing safety and reliability right from the start.
Okay, so kind of like two different philosophies.
Right.
But who's ahead in the race? Like, who do the experts think will win?
Well, industry veterans, people like Anthony Lewandowski, have weighed in.
Okay.
He says that Tesla's access to all that data, it's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
But he also says that Waymo's multi-sensor approach and their proven track record, especially when it comes to safety, that gives them an edge in terms of getting the public to trust them.
Right, because public perception is going to be crucial in all of this.
Absolutely.
Even with all the advancements, people are still wary.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest challenges they face in that regard?
Public perception is definitely a big one.
Yeah.
Even though they have great safety stats, people hear about those few incidents, no matter how rare,
Right.
and it kind of feeds their fear. It's the whole one bad apple thing.
Yeah, exactly. I get it.
Even if the data says autonomous vehicles are actually safer.
It's like flying, right? So statistically, it's safer, but people still get nervous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Waymo is really focusing on transparency
Okay.
and communication.
Okay.
They're sharing their data openly, working with the communities where they operate,
Yeah.
and they're trying to educate people about the benefit.
Right. So transparency and education.
Yeah.
But what about the regulations? Are governments on board with this? Like, is it easy to get permission to operate?
That's another big challenge.
Okay.
The rules are still evolving. Waymo has had to get permits in every city they operate in, and there are often a lot of conditions attached.
Okay.
They've had to deal with reporting requirements, safety audits, even a few software recalls.
Right.
Just like regular car manufacturers.
Well,
Yeah, so it's complex. It's always changing.
that's a headache to deal with for sure.
It is.
But it sounds like they're doing everything by the book,
Yeah.
taking all the steps, for safety and compliance.
Right. And to be fair, regulations are there for a reason, to protect people.
Right.
And as the tech gets better, the rules will probably change too.
For sure.
It's about finding a balance,
Yeah.
between encouraging innovation and keeping the public safe.
That makes sense. So we've covered a lot, but I'm definitely eager to hear more. What's next for Waymo? What does the future hold for them?
Well, that's a question for our next installment.
Oh, okay.
We'll be looking at the future prospects, the challenges,
Okay.
exploring how they might navigate the road ahead.
Sounds fascinating. Can't wait to hear what you have to share. But for now, we'll have to leave it there.
Okay.
Join us next time as we continue our deep dive into the world of Waymo.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into Waymo.
Yeah, we've explored their journey from, a Google project to a company with an actual driverless taxi service.
Right.
We talked about their impressive safety record.
Yeah.
But now I kind of want to step back and think bigger picture for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
Waymo isn't just about, cool technology or getting a ride.
Right.
It's about changing how we think about transportation completely.
Yeah. Maybe even reshaping society
Oh, interesting.
in the process.
Okay. I like where this is going.
Yeah.
Let's put on our futurist hats for a minute here.
Okay.
What industries are going to feel the impact of this whole self-driving revolution?
Well, I think the most obvious one is transportation itself.
Yeah.
If driverless cars really become the norm,
Right.
our whole idea of personal transportation changes big time.
Yeah. No more stressing out in rush hour.
Exactly.
But, okay, think beyond just our daily commute.
Okay.
What else could change?
Well, what about trucking and logistics?
Okay, yeah?
Imagine goods being moved around by self-driving trucks.
Okay.
24/7, no need for breaks or sleep.
That would be huge for companies like Amazon,
Yeah,
Walmart,
for sure.
faster deliveries, lower costs.
Right.
We might even see fewer trucks on the road. I don't know.
Exactly. And it's not just efficiency either.
Okay.
Autonomous trucks, they could actually make our highways safer.
Okay.
Human error, that's a big factor in those accidents.
Right.
So taking the driver out of the equation could save lives.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But what about the, I guess, the human cost?
Yeah.
Like, won't all these driverless vehicles put people out of work?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
It's a conversation we need to be having.
Yeah.
The shift to autonomy will definitely affect some jobs,
Okay.
especially in transportation. But it will also create new opportunities
Okay.
in areas like software development, data analysis, even vehicle maintenance. People are going to need to keep those vehicles running.
So it's more of a shift in the job market, not a complete robot takeover.
Right. I think it's similar to what we saw with the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
Some jobs went away.
Right.
New ones were created.
Yeah, so the key is to kind of prepare, like with education and training programs,
Exactly.
so that people have the skills for these new jobs.
Right.
Okay, I like that focus on solutions.
Yeah.
But let's zoom out even further. How could autonomous vehicles actually change our cities? Like, what would they look like?
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Imagine cities with fewer parking lots.
Okay.
Because cars can just drop you off and then park themselves somewhere else.
Yeah.
Those cars could even become mobile offices
Okay.
or entertainment spaces while they're waiting.
That's pretty wild.
Right.
More walkable cities, more green spaces. I like it.
Exactly. Less concrete jungle.
And think about the traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Autonomous vehicles, they can talk to each other.
Right.
Right? So maybe they optimize their routes, avoid all the bottlenecks.
Yes, smooth out the flow of traffic.
So shorter commutes for everybody.
That'd be the dream.
I know. But, okay, what about the environmental impact? Wouldn't all these cars just add to the problem?
Yeah, that's a tricky question.
Yeah.
There are definitely pros and cons.
Okay.
On the one hand, they could actually reduce emissions
Okay.
by being more fuel efficient
Right.
and driving more smoothly.
Okay, so less stop-and-go traffic equals less wasted gas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if more of those vehicles are electric,
Right.
the benefits get even bigger.
But couldn't autonomous vehicles also lead to more people driving? Like more often?
That's possible.
Okay, how so? Wouldn't they actually make public transport even more appealing?
It might, but cheaper and more convenient transportation could tempt people
Yeah.
to travel further or take more trips.
Oh, okay, so it's like, we call it the rebound effect.
Yeah.
People driving more just because it's easier, even if they don't have
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
The tech might be greener,
Right.
but it could also lead to changes in behavior
Right.
that kind of offset those gains.
It's a good reminder that technology isn't a magic bullet.
No, for sure.
We need to think about those unintended consequences
Yeah,
and encourage sustainable habits, even with this new cool tech.
absolutely.
Speaking of unintended consequences, we've talked a lot about Waymo's safety record.
Right.
But how will these cars impact road safety overall?
Yeah.
Will they really make things safer?
Well, human error, that's a huge part of car accidents.
Yeah.
So logically, if you take the human out of the equation, there should be fewer accidents.
Okay, that makes sense. But is there any evidence for that? Like in the real world?
Actually, there is.
Okay.
Several studies have shown that self-driving cars can reduce accidents significantly. For example, the Rand Corporation, they estimated that if even just 10% of vehicles on the road were autonomous,
Yeah.
it could prevent, like, over 200,000 accidents every year in the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But, okay, let's be realistic. Self-driving cars aren't perfect.
Yeah.
We've heard the stories, mistakes, tricky situations.
Right.
How do we make sure they're truly safe?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
Researchers and engineers are working on it constantly.
Okay.
One key is that rigorous testing.
Right, and Waymo has been doing a lot of that, right?
Absolutely. They're leading the charge there.
Yeah.
But as these vehicles become more common, we're going to need even stricter protocol
Yeah, that makes sense.
to make sure they can handle anything.
But there's also the ethical side of things.
Right.
Like, how do you program a car to make a life or death decision in an emergency?
That's where it gets really complicated.
Yeah.
There are no easy answers.
Right.
We need to be talking about the ethical framework that's guiding this whole field. Who's responsible when something goes wrong?
Yeah.
How do you balance saving lives with the risk of unintended consequences?
Those are some really tough questions.
Yeah, they are.
It shows that this transition to autonomous vehicles isn't just about technology.
Yeah.
It's a social and ethical challenge, too.
Absolutely.
So, okay, we've talked about job disruptions, redesigned cities, and ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
It's clear that autonomous vehicles could really change our world in ways we're just starting to understand.
For sure.
But where does that leave us? Like, how should we prepare for this driverless future?
That's a great question to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to stay informed.
Okay.
Be part of these conversations, stay open to the possibilities, good and bad.
Yeah.
This is a future we're all building together.
I love that.
Yeah.
Staying engaged and informed, that's crucial.
For sure.
So on that note, we'll be back with the final part of our Waymo deep dive, where we'll bring together all the key takeaways and leave you with some final food for thought.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on this incredible journey with Waymo.
We have. From Google's little project to a front runner in this whole autonomous vehicle race.
It's amazing how far they've come.
It is.
We've talked about their innovative technology, how committed they are to safety,
Right.
their smart partnerships, even the potential impact on, society.
Absolutely.
It's been a lot.
It really has.
So before we finish up,
Okay.
let's step back. Big picture.
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways that stand out for you from this deep dive?
For me, it's got to be their focus on safety.
Okay.
They've really set the bar high for everybody else.
Yep.
Rigorous testing, data sharing, addressing those public concerns.
Yeah.
They're clearly putting safety first.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
That safety-first mindset, it's everywhere.
It is.
It's not just about building cool tech. It's
Around.
about building trust, making sure these vehicles are ready for anything.
Exactly.
And their safety record really shows that.
It does.
Those stats about the lower accident rates.
Yeah, very compelling.
Yeah, they're walking the walk,
They are.
not just talking the talk.
Absolutely.
What else stands out to you?
Another thing is their approach to partnerships.
Okay. Yeah.
They've been so strategic about working with the big names.
Right, like Jaguar Land Rover, Fiat Chrysler,
Yeah.
Uber.
Exactly.
Instead of going it alone, they're using that existing expertise.
These
resource-
partnerships are going to be key for them.
Yeah, totally.
It lets them focus on what they do best.
Right, the Waymo driver.
Right. And use all that existing manufacturing, distribution, all that.
Smart move.
Very smart.
So it's a great example of collaboration.
It is.
But even with all their strengths, there are still challenges ahead, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The regulations, the ethical questions, winning over the public.
All big ones.
What do you think? Can they overcome those?
I think so. Open dialogue, collaboration, willingness to adapt. I think those are key.
I'm optimistic too. It seems like Waymo is tackling these things head on,
Yeah.
engaging with policymakers, industry leaders, the public.
Good to see.
So as we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to leave our listener with a final question.
Okay.
We've talked about how autonomous vehicles could change transportation, logistics, our cities,
Right.
but what other industries could be disrupted?
Oh, man. The possibilities.
Yeah.
Healthcare, agriculture, construction,
Yeah.
maybe even space exploration.
Wow.
Anything that involves moving things around.
It's wild to think about the ripple effects, right?
It is. We're in a time of crazy technological advancement.
Yeah, the future is happening right now.
It is.
Well said. So to our listeners, keep exploring the world of autonomous vehicles.
Yeah,
Stay curious, stay informed.
absolutely.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to come up with the next breakthrough.
That's the dream.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for our deep dive into Waymo.
It's been fun.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
See you next time.